Chapter 249, Murderous Look. This chapter is updated by novels.pl. Mr. Liu, this is the blue mist wine that is made from the dew of blue mist flower, containing the power of spiritual crystal. After drinking, your cultivation will be improved. Miss Yunzai sat next to Zhang Yuochen, wearing a thin, pale green dress. With 2 fingers as white as snow, she held the white jade wine cup and delivered it to Zhang Yuochen's lips. Needless to say, Miss Yunzai was really beautiful. She definitely deserved the title of being the top beauty of Rosefinch Tower. Although she was still no match for Huang Yanshan and Duan Muxingerling, her beauty was already on par with Lin Ningshan. Her plump white breasts were full and soft, revealing a deep cleavage under the thin lace. An enticing smell exhaled from her body. Her eyes, moist and shining, as if water would drip any time, were gazing adoringly at Zhang Yuochen. Zhang Yuochen took the cup, but he did not drink the wine. In the black market, it would be better to be safe than sorry. Miss Yunzai was a little disappointed. She gave Zhang Yuochen a rueful glance, thinking that he lacked a sense of romance. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed from outside. Bang, bang. Army guarding Marquis, who was clad in golden armor, with a 2-meter-long sword hanging by his waist, made his entrance into the room. He had a stalwart figure with a 2.5-meter height. His arms were as thick as buckets and his waist was broad. His heavily built chest and back looked just as strong as a tiger. He was emanating an intense spirit pressure of martial arts. Elder Y, Military Counselor Yun, and the owner of Rosefinch Tower all carefully retreated a few steps before him. They felt as though their minds and bodies were being oppressed. The air in the whole elegance hall seemed to be frozen, they could hardly breathe. Army guarding Marquis burst out laughing. He walked toward Zhang Yuochen and asked, "Is this the student of the left Prime Minister, Mr. Liu Xin?" "Greetings, Army guarding Marquis." Zhang Yuochen stood up, clasping hands in greeting. His calm expression presented a striking contrast to Elder Y and others. Seeing this, Army guarding Marquis squinted his eyes and exclaimed, saying, "You're indeed the student of left Prime Minister. Ordinary warriors cannot be compared to you." While Army guarding Marquis was staring at him, Zhang Yuochen was also staring back at Army guarding Marquis. They sized each other up at once. Army guarding Marquis was definitely a gifted warrior with strong physical quality and large bone structure. He looked just as robust as a dragon and as fierce as a tiger. It seemed like he was born with extraordinary power. Such a person, of course, would be considered as top-notch even in the same realm. Both of their martial cultivation were in the initial stage of the heaven realm. But Zhang Yuochen felt incredible pressure accompanying his presence. It was possible that this person might be stronger than Mu King. As for Hu Minggong, whose cultivation was lower, was certainly not his opponent. On top of that, behind Army guarding Marquis stood 6 guards that were completely wrapped in black armor. They were no ordinary guards but men of sacrifice with the sole purpose of serving and protecting their master. Each and every one of them emanated an icy cold aura and stayed close to Army guarding Marquis. So it would be easy to assume that anyone must first get past them before getting close to Army guarding Marquis. Zhang Yuochen said, "Army guarding Marquis is indeed the military commander in the south of Square Commandery. You have many men of talents. These 6 guards are all superior. How I envy you." Army guarding Marquis laughed and said, "Mr. Liu, you've got a good eye for this. I foster a total of 10 guards and they have all reached the dawn state of the Earth realm. In the military, they are known as 10 generals of death, whose status is just below me. Today I only brought 6 of them here. But if they work together to give a combined attack, they can temporarily contend with the martial arts legends in the heaven realm." "That's amazing," Zhang Yuochen replied. With these 6 General of Death guarding Army guarding Marquis closely made the task of killing him more difficult than usual. Army guarding Marquis laughed. "They're just 10 guards in the Earth realm. They can't even compare to left Prime Ministers as the gap is too large." "Mr. Liu, since I'm here, shouldn't you take out the left Prime Minister's token and let me appraise it? Once your identity is confirmed, then we can continue to negotiate bigger deals." "Of course." Zhang Yuochen's right hand reached into one of his sleeves to grab the said token and handed it over to Army guarding Marquis. Army guarding Marquis looked at the token, and suddenly, His eyes widened. This is the token of the school of the martial market. Oh no. He is from the school of the martial market. Snorting coldly, Zhang Yuochen infused genuine qi into the token and sent it flying toward one of the guards standing on the left side of army guarding Marquis. The token was wrapped in genuine qi like a fireball. Its impact was so powerful that it sent the guard who was in the final state of the earth realm flying off to the side. Bang! That guard smashed through the wall and flew out of the elegance hall, leaving a human-shaped hole behind. Before army guarding Marquis could respond, a sharp broken sword appeared in Zhang Yuochen's hand. He built up all his genuine qi and then swung his sword towards army guarding Marquis' neck. Crack! The abyss ancient sword was completely wrapped up in spiritual fire genuine qi, causing a raging 1 meter long of fire to spring up around it. It was as though Zhang Yuochen held a fire dragon in his hands. Even if there were a huge river before him, he probably could still cut it into 2 parts. Let alone a person. Army guarding Marquis was frightened, his expression changed drastically. However, it was too late to escape, so he had no choice but to extend his arms to fend off Zhang Yuochen's attack. The abyss ancient sword ripped his genuine qi apart and came slashing down at his neck. Boom! The floor beneath army guarding Marquis's feet cracked and he fell to the ground floor, leaving a big hole in the ground. The whole pavilion shook violently and teetered as if it could collapse at any moment. Zhang Yuochen could sense that the sword only slashed open army guarding Marquis' armor but definitely did not kill him. As he was planning to get to the ground floor, Elder Y, military councillor Yun, and owner of Rosefinch Tower joined forces to attack him simultaneously. Brat, who are you? How dare you assassinate army guarding Marquis? Now die. Since he has the Martial Market Bank's token, he should be a young master from there. We should work together to take him down, owner of Rosefinch Tower said. The 3 of them were in the completion of the Earth realm. They spread out, encircled Zhang Yuochen in the middle and unleashed their most powerful martial techniques. Tanyin Palm Technique. The meridians in Elder Y's body all turned green as if they were tattoos. Then, a thick layer of icing cold gathered on his hands. His palm shot towards Zhang Yuochen's left side, unleashing an icing air palm strike. Blood ribbon. 2 blood red ribbons flew out from the sleeves of owner of Rosefinch Tower, extending over 10 feet long and moved toward Zhang Yuochen's hands to twine around them. Shunk. Zhang Yuochen flashed into motion, appearing directly in front Elder Y in no time. Suddenly, a sword flashed through the air and blood sprayed everywhere. Elder Y's head had been cut off even before his palm strike could reach Zhang Yuochen. Swish. Zhang Yuochen unleashed a series of counterattacks toward the owner of Rosefinch Tower. He sent out 13 sword strikes which then became 13 sword breath, chopping off the 2 ribbons and cut them into pieces. What? Owner of Rosefinch Tower's face went pale. She had clearly underestimated her opponent's strength. So she quickly retreated, planning to escape through the window. A shadow flashed across and Zhang Yuochen was seen standing right in front of the window before her. Sacred guiding sword. Zhang Yuochen swung his sword and hurled a 10-meter-long line of sword breath. The sword breath stretched from his feet to the front of owner of Rosefinch Tower, leaving a long ditch on the ground. Owner of Rosefinch Tower crossed her arms over her chest to block the attack. Letting out a piercing cry, she was sent flying out by sword breath. Blood spattered all over the floor. No one knew if she would still be alive. That single strike unleashed by Zhang Yuochen just now had unintentionally split the entire pavilion in half. The floors had also crumbled into rubble, leaving the lowest floor open. Zhang Yuochen did not confirm the death of owner of Rosefinch Tower as she was just a nobody. She would not be a threat to him even if she was still alive. His real concern was to get rid of army guarding Marquis. Zhang Yuochen then jumped to the lowest floor. He saw a 3-meter diameter hole and some fresh blood spattered around, but army guarding Marquis was nowhere to be seen. As if sensing something ahead, Zhang Yuochen suddenly looked up and saw 6 martial arts masters standing above him. Each of them held a jade stone in hand while infusing genuine qi into it. They were activating the encryption of a ray in the jade stones, in order to prepare for the combined attack. There were 5 of them who were clad in thick iron armors. They were the 5 generals of death who was with army guarding Marquis just now. Another person was military councillor Yun, Yun Zonghai. They were all regarded as top-notch masters in martial world. Swish. Once the combined attack was ready, the 6 jades each released a light beam. Their beams connected with each other and formed a spherical cage array, trapping Zhang Yuochen at the center of array. Army guarding Marquis walked out. His eyes as fierce as tiger, glaring coldly at Zhang Yuochen who was in the array and said, "Brat, tell me, who on earth are you?" Zhang Yuochen's previous sword attack had damaged his armor and left a deep wound on his neck. He was seriously injured. Even his collarbone was broken. The condition of his injury was pacified solely by his profound martial cultivation. Looking at the poor state army guarding Marquis was in, Zhang Yuochen smiled fearlessly and said, "You are gonna die soon, so there's no use in telling you the truth, isn't I'm gonna die?" Ha ha. Army guarding Marquis threw back his head and roared with laughter. "It seems like you haven't clearly understood the current situation. I've already sent people to activate the defender array in the black market. Even if you managed to escape the combined attack, there's still no way for you to live." His words made Zhang Yuochen think twice. The combined attack would pose some threats to him, but it was not really troublesome. However, once the defender array was activated, it would be impossible for him to kill army guarding Marquis. Yun Zonghai and 5 generals of death, listen, take this guy down but don't kill him. I want him alive. Army guarding Marquis said angrily. Boom. The combined attack began to spin quickly under the activation of those 6 masters. A series of encryption of array gushed out from jade stones, turning into lightning streaks. They tangled together in the midair and formed 6 thick lightning, shooting toward Zhang Yuochen all at once. Break. Zhang Yuochen waved his arm, causing a 3-feet-long space crack to appear out of thin air. It then flew in the direction of Yun Zonghai. Space cracked. Yun Zonghai was terrified. Just as he wanted to escape, a grisly suction force from the space crack pulled him in. By the time space crack closed, Yun Zonghai had already vanished. Without Yun Zonghai, the combined attack naturally collapsed on its own. What just happened? Army guarding Marquis's eyes were glued to the place where Yun Zonghai just disappeared. He could not believe space suddenly cracked open and swallowed a martial arts master who was already in the completion of the Earth realm into it. Army guarding Marquis was completely and utterly shocked. He knew that if he was hit by the space crack, his fate would not be much better than Yun Zonghai. Why the defender array hasn't started? This guy was so unpredictable. Let's leave before it's too late. Army guarding Marquis dared not to stay any longer as fear rose up in his heart. On top of that, he was also seriously injured. He immediately fled from the Rose Finch Tower. Run? Where to? Zhang Yuochen quickly leapt out of the building. Just when he was going to chase after him regarding Marquis, the 5 generals of death dashed out with 5 battle swords, attacking Zhang Yuochen all at once. Swish. Zhang Yuochen performed a series of footsteps, turning his body into 9 phantoms where each of them was a clone of his own. He then unleashed 9 sword techniques simultaneously. In the next minute, Zhang Yuochen had already made his way through the 5 generals of death and became a shadow, chasing after army guarding Marquis. Just as Zhang Yuochen left, those 5 general of death all fell to the ground at the same time. They were found dead with a faint blood stain on each one's necks. Seeing that the 5 powerful Earthrealm masters were killed in a flash, those prostitutes in the Rose Finch Tower were all scared out of their minds after witnessing the sword technique performed by Zhang Yuochen.